Welcome to our new series, The 200 Movie Challenge. Our goal this year is to watch 200 movies that we haven't seen yet. If you want to listen to the full podcast where this clip is from, the link will be in the description. Now enjoy today's movie.
We need to stay in this kind of musical drama, not drama, but musical movie thought.
Do we?
Well, in a different way.
Yes.
So again, I was on Netflix and I was perusing, and because no to be September, and I'm like, I need to find something that looks good, something that might be different. And this picture popped up, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be good, but it's piqued my interest. So for my next movie, my 79th movie, I am going to start numbering down a little bit to Lisa Lady. I actually saw a Netflix documentary. So I went back to the documentary, but it is about music because I saw the movie The Greatest Night in Pop. It's a 2024 documentary. It is about how the song We Are the World came to be. Now, those of us, for those of us in the older generations of the world, way back in the, I think, 84, 85, there is this huge song called We Are the World. It was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, which I'm going to get into a little bit. It was put together, and it's tons of famous artists of that era sang on this song. And a lot of them had one line or half line, and some of them didn't have lines at all. But anyhow, it was basically started by Quincy Jones because he wanted to help with the famine in Ethiopia, everything going on in there. The hunger, hence it's called USA for Africa. But yeah, so anyone that knows anything about We Are the World kind of knows a lot of these artists who are a part of it. I don't feel like I need to go down, but when you have, let's put it this way, Bruce Springsteen, we got Kenny Loggins, obviously Huey Lewis, Cyndi Lauper. But Soda, let me tell you some people who didn't even get lines, who are just part of the chorus. Bette Midler, Dan Aykroyd, the Jacksons, Sheila E. So there are so many people who didn't even get lines. Smokey Robinson, that were just there. But
Smokey Robinson.
So this movie is basically how this song got put together, and I actually found this very interesting because outside of like world events, there's very few moments in sports, entertainment, that kind of thing where there's a moment that's bigger than everyone involved, and I'm just talking about more of the, pop culture, references, nothing, real world, so to speak, and I'm not trying to compare, but it's like, I know we don't remember, but you've heard the story Miracle in Vice, the 1980s hockey team being in that moment that united a country. And that was just a freaking hockey game, but everything that was going on, like I said, that moment was bigger than anyone that was playing it. The result of this is the same. So yes, Quincy Jones came up with the idea. He wanted to help, and he came up like, hey, I want to write a song. He contacted Lionel Richie, and who was kind of big at that time. And Lionel Richie was supposed to write the song with Stevie Wonder, but he could not get a hold of Stevie Wonder. He actually had his number, and he wouldn't call back. Hence why he talked to Michael. It's like,
no cell phones.
Oh, no. Well, that's the other amazing how they got this together, which no social media, no cell phones, no nothing. So he contacted Michael Jackson because basically they said, okay, they're going to do this. And like, how do we put this together? There is, a yearly, the American Music Awards was happening in 3 weeks. And like, listen, if we can do this after that show, if we can get everyone from there, and they had a studio, like we don't have to pay for plane tickets, they don't have to pay for, they're already going to be there. So yeah, Michael Jackson came in, and the two of them worked on a song. And yeah, so they got so many people. There is not arguments, but like someone wanted Madonna, but then came down to Madonna versus Cyndi Lauper. Someone was a friend of Cyndi Lauper, and they're like, listen, I 100% know I can get her for a line. Bruce Springsteen actually was touring. He had his final show in Buffalo, New York. He flew. He was one of the few that kind of flew to California to be a part of this. So yeah, he left his show. He actually hit some snow. People didn't think he was going to make it. But the fact that, because Quincy Jones was asking Lionel Richie and people were like, they wanted to be a part of this. They kind of knew this is something big. And because these artists were asking them, they're like, okay, let's do this. So yeah, they had 3 weeks. So basically now that they had the date, and they were kind of getting all these artists and kind of explain the situation. They had 3 weeks to write the song, produce the song, and in one night record the song, because they could not get these artists. Because the idea was they didn't want the artists like, yeah, all right, we'll talk to Michael first. He'll sing his song. You know, they wanted everyone in that room singing the chorus, looking at each other. Because if you remember the video, they're all there. They're all there. You just, you know, you got Willie Nelson next to, you know, what, Diane Warwick or whatever. You know, it's just, it's a who's who in music that will never be duplicated today. I'm sorry. The amount of star power, current star power, none of these were really has-beens for the most part. Lionel Richie was actually hosting the American Music Awards. He was host. He won 6 awards that night. So after that event, he went over. At the end of the night, you know, when he comes home the next morning, because they ended, a lot of people left at 6, 7 in the morning. He went home, and his wife was asking, "Oh man, you did great at the Music Awards. You know, how was it hosting?" He forgot everything that happened at the like he forgot he won 6 awards because he was so in the moment of what was happening in this room. So yeah, and so they got all this footage of behind the scenes and them working together. And they even tell stories of people who, like, they wanted Prince. And they had Sheila E., who was friends with them. She was part of it. And Prince didn't want to do it because he doesn't like crowds, which that's fine. But then, you know, they're like, we have this one line. You're more than welcome to come. And he's like, well, I'll come in. I'll do my line and I'll play a guitar. He's like, no, you need to come in during this group. You like, they're set. Like, so they denied Prince, like, his wishes. Like, this is how we're doing it. If you don't want to be part of it, fine. But this is how we're doing it. And it's amazing. I think before the start, after they all left the awards, Quincy Jones put a sign above the recording studio. First of all, there was no assistants, no one out. The only people allowed in the studio were the singers, the performers. So none of their assistants. But he basically said, leave your egos at the door. And he just put the paper there, just that. And it's amazing how these guys work together. Because yes, these are pop stars. This is when Michael Jackson was at his top. Mid 90s, early mid, you know, yes, he had a huge career, but this was like right after through everything. And so the fact that he was big in part of it, but I was made, and the one part I laugh about is, God, who was it? Bob Dylan? Was it Bob Dylan? Anyhow, yeah, because they're like, okay, for those who can hit these notes, you sing, everyone else just kind of, and if you see videos, Bob Dylan looks like he is miserable. But when you watch him talk to, like, because when he sang his line, you know, it was just like, he was really into it. He just knew he couldn't do a lot of those voices. Like, he knew. Same with Bruce Springsteen. Springsteen's like, he's like, I know I can't hit those high notes like that. So he kind of shut out. But Bob Dylan was on his own mind. But he was so behind this. Like, so when you watch this, he just looks so, when you see the video, he just looks like he's standing there swaying, not giving a shit. He really cared. So I kind of appreciate that. The other
that's great
tidbit that I love is the fact, like Springsteen said it. He's like, mid recording, they had a break, and he's like, I'm looking over there. He's like, you know, Bruce Springsteen, the boss, is like, that's Bob fucking Dylan. Like, he was a fan, and they're all talking about how they're looking around the room, and then all of a sudden, they were signing each other's, like, music sheets. You know, fans of fans, and so, yeah, I get it. You know, you think about the song, it's maybe a little cheesy. It raised at that time like $80 million. So that tells you, again, the impact. But just watching these pop stars, the celebrity, you know, at their height, working together and actually trying to figure this out. Yeah, I will say there's a couple people that did walk out. One country star I don't know, because Stevie Wonder suggested something and he didn't like it. I don't know. He's like, I don't understand that, because I don't even know what happened. But so real quick before I get to my ranking, going back to Stevie Wonder. So yeah, Stevie Wonder comes in the night that they're recording the song, and he thought that was the night he was supposed to write the song with Lionel Richie. So he was like, wait, there's already a song. So he's like, he was a little upset, but like, we tried to reach you. Like, I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, hard back then.
Yeah. And since Prince backed out, Huey Lewis got his line. So Huey Lewis wasn't even going to have a line in the song also. So, but it's also the explanation why certain people got paired. Someone like, excuse me, you know, like, God, what was his name? I can't even think of it. Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is with an R&B singer. Those two styles do not mix and match, especially that time. They're two different personalities. And she's like, why I'm with this. But what Lionel Richie and Quincy Jones is, they listen to every singer, every song, basically their lines to their voices, and match them together. And like, this is why, because you guys' tones are the same. And they had everyone standing, so they listened. That's what they're doing for the 3 weeks. So how they made this one song, how they pinpointed, all right, this is where Bruce Springsteen's going to come in because we're on the low. He'll bring this up. So they like the wave of the song. It was fucking awesome. And again, I get people, again, joking kids nowadays won't get why this song or these artists were big, like why this was such an important thing. I don't think social media now is different. You can splice together with something. It's just this moment. There's no, you said it, no cell phones, everyone had to be reached by like fax machine or, regular phones, and they made it work in 3 weeks, one night to record, and they did it. So yeah, it's a very interesting documentary. I get that this is not everyone's cup of tea. So hence it's not really a musical, you don't really hear the full song into the end, but the certain parts. But it was just amazing. It was just amazing seeing how they put it together. And then at the end, Diana Ross, I think, was the last one to leave the studio. And Quincy Jones came to her and she's like, she was in tears, like, is everything okay? She's like, I don't want this night to end. She's just looking again, all these, not just, people she respects, but people she's met for the first time, like a Cyndi Lauper. Yeah. So that's how important this moment was. And yes, the song did a lot. It raised a lot of money. I will admit it is a cheesy song. I might have sung it better. But what it did, it was just, it did a lot. And yeah. So I will say I like the interactions of all these stars that I grew up listening to. But I can see why, like, if someone like my daughter's age watched this documentary, she might know a few, but like it won't resonate with her as much as it does with people like us. So, but the hard part is, where do I put this on my list, Soto?
It sounds very intriguing.
It is. I highly anyone our age group or anyone that knows why about the song a little bit, anyone who loves music, 80s music especially, yeah, because again it's basically how they put it together. And there is so much more footage that I did not realize. And the other thing is, none of them got paid for this. None of them made a dime. Everything went to USA for Africa, Ethiopia. The interviews, the actual interviews they had, Lionel Richie, Bruce Springsteen, Kenny Loggins, Huey Lewis, like they're all talking about this. There is also a cameraman one of the very few people who were allowed to be in the room, and he's like writing up his slip, like the tech guys do. And Quincy Jones is like, "Oh, don't worry about that." And he's like, "No, everyone's not getting paid." And he's a fucking cameraman, and he's like, "Well," he's like, "What the fuck am I going to say to Quincy Jones?" He's like, "Well, I got a cool T-shirt, and I met so many people." He's like, "I got a story out of this." But it's like you're in the top of the music industry. You're not like, "Listen, I want my $10 an hour, dude." Whatever, but. Yeah, he laughed about it. He's like to be in that room in that moment. He's like, you can't. There's no price. So, but yes, where do I put this?
The ultimate question.
Yeah, again, this is. I mean, I kind of said this before. Not a movie I'm probably going to watch again, but definitely a movie I enjoyed. It intrigued me. Oh, all right. All right, back time. I feel this. I'm going to put this at 29. I'm going to put this above the Happy Time Murders underneath Ready or Not, because this was, like I said, if you like these stars, like I know you love Bruce Springsteen, like just seeing him, but just seeing him, because he's one of the people they interviewed, just seeing his recollection of this night, but also seeing him perform, and who just things like you would enjoy that story. You learn a bit. So there's just something for everyone. That's why this song worked. You had R&B, you had country, you had rock, you had this, you had that, and they made it work. Everyone got their line. And then I forgot Dan Aykroyd because of Blues Brothers. He was just sitting there in the back. To me, I'm like, because no offense, yes, I know the Blues Brothers are. Like, I don't consider Dan Aykroyd a musician. He's a comedic actor to me. I love him. But to see him back there just singing, I'm like, oh, but there's so many people who didn't even get lines that are global phenomenons. And the fact that they came just because they wanted to work with Quincy Jones, Richie, Michael Jackson, They wanted to support the cause. They're like, they call you, and they made it work in one night. And that was the most impressive. One of the biggest songs ever just done in one night. Recorded in one night, which is friggin' amazing. So, but yeah, so this is one song I would say, I'm not saying go out and rush it for yourself. I know, but it's not, like I said, I would not call this a musical because it's not. They do play that song, clips of it, but that helps you know. But yeah, no, it's not like you're getting a huge catalog of songs here. So, but it was definitely very interesting. So.